Hello, everyone. Dr. Vicky here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. I'm going to do part 2 of Supreme Justice. Today, we're going to be looking at our favorite misogynist, Clarence Thomas, born in Pinpoint, Georgia in 1948. And he has a very interesting story. If you want to learn more about Clarence Thomas and his life in a broader perspective, along with his insurrectionist wife, Ginny, for entertainment purposes only, you can check out The Frontline. It's about an hour and a half, and it talks about Clarence and Ginny Thomas. And I will link it below in the show notes, so you can watch it. And you may want to watch it first. It is an hour and a half, and this isn't going to be anywhere near that long. But certainly you can watch this and then listen to it if you're so interested, because it's fascinating and very eye-opening, and it gives you a deeper understanding of Clarence Thomas, because it would be easy enough to make him into a cartoon character at this point, cartoon villain. But he has had some real profound challenges in his life, and he has made choices so that he could actually have power instead of feeling disempowered. And so I think it's always important, even if it's people we don't agree with, to try to get the most information that we can to understand where they're coming from and see it in a broader context, I think. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But let's get started, okay? Let me share my screen here. Okay, let's do the slideshow. Let's see if this is where I want to be. Nope, that's not where I want to be. Hold on one second. Sorry about this. I thought I could do this quickly, but obviously. Huh. All right. The Supreme Justice, the Court. Part 2. We are going to look at Clarence Thomas. Hi, Clarence. So we have Justice Thomas, which has been on the bench since 1991, I believe. So let's take a look. Here's his fotch, as we say in Jersey. All right, so Clarence Thomas was born the 23rd of June, 1948 in Pinpoint, Georgia at 9 p.m. And that's the information we get. He does not have a middle name as far as I know, so we're using the name Clarence Thomas. And if we add up his vowels, we get 2 vibrations. We get an 11 because the name Clarence, the vowels in Clarence vibrate to an 11, so we move the 11 over. And then we have 7 of Thomas. We add that up and we get the soul vibration of 18. So he has a dual soul vibration, 11, justice, master number, and the moon, 18-9 vibration. His outer personality, this is how he expresses himself. This is how he's experienced by other people. This is also deals with talents and abilities he's bringing forth from other lifetimes. And we get a 3811, which is the Queen of Cups. Now, the 3811, that's a Scorpio vibration, and he does have some Scorpio. In fact, he has his South Node in Scorpio. So we know that, and we'll get to his chart, so we'll see all of that. So we know that Scorpio is an energy that he's very familiar with. And when we add these 2 vibrations together, and take note that there's another 11 here. So he has an 11 in the soul, and he has an 11 in the quiescent. And when we add his expression together with his, when we add up for his expression, which is his soul vibration plus his consonants, which is the vibration of the whole name, we get a 5611. So we have another 11. Now, the cards associated with these numbers, the soul is justice and the moon. The outer personality is the Queen of Cups. And then when we add those 2 together, we get a 3rd expression vibration, which is the 5611, which is the Two of Swords. His path of life, which he came in to learn about, the lessons in his life, is the King of Swords, which is a 51-6. So the King of Swords, all the kings deal with the theme of dominion. And so he's come in to have dominion over his mind, Now, the interesting thing about his numbers that he comes in with, so this is the soul vibration, the quiescent vibration, and the expression vibration, is a combination of trying to find mental balance, but with a lot of very intense emotional energies connected to it. The moon is very intense emotional energy, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of pain through relationship. People with 18-9 souls experience a lot of pain in their relationships. And part of the lesson in that for them is to sort of learn forgiveness, right? Or to practice forgiveness. And in order for his soul to be at ease with itself, that is one of the things that he needs to practice. He needs to practice forgiveness in his life, and he also needs to balance things out, to be aware. And this man is quite aware, I think, of cosmic justice. And then we have his lesson, which is telling him that you need to use good judgment. You need to have dominion or control over the mind, so you can wield the sword of justice in a perhaps equal, egalitarian, or just a more logical way, right? So it's more, and it's hard for Clarence, because if you look at his birthday makes him a Cancer, and he has a lot of Cancer in his chart. So we're dealing with a very emotional person, and the Cancer as a sign associated with feelings is the first water sign. So he's learning how to feel. He's learning how to work with these energies that come up and that he's feeling. Having that Cancer, having a preponderance. It's not just his son that's in Cancer. So we'll look at his chart and we'll see that in his chart as well. But let's continue on with the numbers here. And then we have his shadow. And of course, the shadow we get by adding his first name, Clarence, which vibrates to a 34-7. That is Sagittarius vibration. Actually, it's the 8 of Wands, along with his day of birth, which is the 23rd. And when we add those together, we get a 57. And the 57-3 is also a sword card. It's the 3 of Swords. So it's about heartbreak. So his shadow, his deepest wound is one of betrayal and heartbreak. And so we can come into a life to heal the wound, or very often we come into the life and express our life through the wound. Okay, so that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. All right, so let's take a look at his the next part of his numbers here, which is his divine triangle. And if we look here, we have in his youth square 22-4, which is the Fool card, and is associated with the planet Uranus. And here we have the Fool with Uranus, and I have youth square. His power square, the power square is how we resolve the issues of the youth square by creating a foundation for ourselves. Now, the 22-4 as a youth vibration can be insecurity. It's a 4, so we know there's a lot of crisis. He did not have a very easy growing up. He was, I'm not sure he knew his dad, or if he did, it was when he was little, and then his mother divorced. And then I believe she had to go to work to support. And so he was raised by his grandparents, and his grandfather was very cruel. And then he ended up going to Catholic school, and he even considered being a priest. This is somebody who's looking for a way to deal with what he's feeling inside. And he, when Martin Luther King passed away or was killed, one of the priests I think at that time he might have been in the seminary, or maybe he was still in high school. I can't remember exactly. You can find this out if you watch the Frontline thing. One of the priests said, "I hope that bastard goes to hell," or something like that about Martin Luther King. And it made Clarence realize that in this place that he thought was a sanctuary, it was not. And so he went to school. I think he went to Yale, I believe, or could have been Harvard, but I believe it was Harvard, I believe. And he became a Black Panther, and he was very militant. And then he went on, and I'm not sure, it could have been Yale, but he went on this protest, and then there was violence and property damage and all this stuff. And then he realized that wasn't for him either. And he had a real issue with affirmative action. He felt as though people assumed that he was there because of affirmative action and not because he was smart. And this guy's pretty damn smart. He's a smart guy. But he does have some wounding, and he does have some pretty severe issues around power and around sexuality, which kind of goes along with that Scorpio 3811 vibration. And the South Node in Scorpio that he has in his chart, which again, we'll take a look at. His wisdom square is 33. It's the master number. And it's associated with the planet Venus. He has Venus in Cancer, I believe, if I'm correct. And of course, with Venus being in his wisdom square, his shadow being the 57-3, relationships to women are both, I think, both problems and blessings for him. All right, so if we take a look at when he was, let's see, he was nominated July 1st, 1991, which vibrated to a 28-1 vibration. And so he was nominated as a Black Supreme Court. It wasn't the first. Thurgood Marshall was the first, but he was, I believe, the first Black Republican. So that would make him like a oneer, so like first in line there. And he was kind of used to being the first Black guy in anyway, because that was kind of had been his life up to that point. He was in a 49-4 vibration at that time. The 49-4 is located on the Tree of Life in Yesod, which is connected to the moon. So the moon is prominent in that. And it is also the sacral chakra, which is the chakra associated with sex, power, and money. So he was nominated on July 1st. And then they were going through the process of saying yes to him in October of 1991. Now, during that time, Anita Hill came out and said that he had been inappropriate with her, and of course she was mercilessly attacked by all the good old boys, including Joe Biden, and so that was happening. That occurred in between October 11th and October 13th. So there was I'm sorry, the 11th to the 12th. So the 11th, 12th, and the 13th was Anita Hill. And I remember that. I was certainly old enough to remember that. And then, of course, they sent him through anyway. So there was some sort of like indication that there might be something amiss with this. And the interesting thing about that is Anita Hill wasn't the only person they spoke to. She was the only person who spoke in public testimony. I think there were two other women who pretty much gave the same story. And then later, I was, doing a little research on him, and somebody in, was it 2000? There was another lawyer who was a law student who said that she was groped by him, and that was when he was already in the court. I can't remember the date on that. I'm sorry. And then in 2022, he, in 2020, at the end of 2020, they rushed in Amy Coney Barrett, and he was the one to swear her in, not John Roberts. So there was a shift in the power of the court at that time, putting John Roberts, I'd say, in behind the 8 ball a bit. And then, of course, once Barrett came in, they had a majority, a conservative majority. And up to that point, Roberts had been considered relatively, kind of a swing. But suddenly, it seems like Roberts isn't swinging anymore. But we'll take a look at him next, but not today. All right. So let's take a look at the numbers. So when he was nominated, he was in a 11-2 vibration, subperiod of that 49-4. But it was also the time when Anita Hill was testifying. And then he was sworn in on 10/23 in 1991, and he was in a 9, subperiod 9. So he was in 11 when he was nominated, and Anita Hill was speaking. And then on the day that he moved into a 9 period, which is connected to his soul, remember, has an 18-9 soul, so it's connected to his soul vibration. He was nominated and became a Supreme Court justice. We jump to 2021. Actually 2022. Roe versus Wade was overturned on the 24th of June of 2022. That's when it was announced. And that was the day after his birthday. So he was in a 35-8 vibration at that time. Interestingly enough, that's also in the sacral chakra. That is the 9 of Wands, the vigilant soldier, boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And in that time, he was in a subperiod of a 17-8, which is the star card. So this is some sort of hope issue with him. And then the next year, which just happened a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of days ago, actually, affirmative action was taken down. And then the equal rights for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transsexual, intersexual, queer, whatever, all the people was undone in a case that actually ended up being a fake case. So we'll see what happens with that. We're still here with that. But he is in now, this year in 2023, a 36-9 vibration, which is the 10 of Wands. That is the burden bearer. So he's under a lot of stress. Now, when affirmative action was taken down, he was in a 19-1 subperiod of his 9 year. So 19-1 is about a new direction, but it's also a destiny number. So there's a sense of destiny here. Now, when October rolls around, he's going to be in a 13-4 vibration. And by next February 23rd, he moves into a 16-7, which is the Tower. Now, he will be moving into a 1 year in 2024 on his birthday. The 9 year is a natural time of endings. Now, I also have some other dates here. Oh, yes. So in 2019, he was in a 41-5 vibration. In 2020, he moved into a 33-6 vibration. This is his wisdom square vibration here. And he is 72 at that time. And at 72, his his first name, Clarence, ended, and he started his first name again with the C in Clarence. And so from 72 to 81, he's in a 3 vibration. But it's interesting that he came to the end at 2020. And of course, we all know that his wife, Ginny, was a proponent of overturning the election and putting the right person in, which she thought was Trump. She was a true believer. We're not really sure if she believed it or if it's just something that she wanted to do. She had a tendency towards magical thinking and believing and true believer kind of status. And I think if you're married to somebody like Clarence Thomas, who has that shadowy sexual side, I think you need to be a little bit of somebody living in your own little world so you could stand yourself. But that's just my own opinion on that. You guys can do whatever you want with that. You can totally disagree with me. Okay, so when January 6th happened, he was in this 33-6 vibration, but he was in a 10-1 year, a 10-1 sub period of the year, of the 6th year. 6 is about taking responsibility. This 10-1 is about change. So something changed on January 6th, and it could finally be the final straw of the thing we cannot forgive him for. Now, if we remember, he voted on whether or not there was something about January 6th that they were trying to get, and I apologize for not knowing the exact thing. You guys probably know better than I do because you're watching this and you're following this and you're interested. My facts are a little they're there, but I don't have dates. I know that it happened, but don't ask me when it happens. But he didn't recuse himself. He doesn't feel like he ever has to recuse himself, no matter what's going on. And it was like directly connected to his wife. So, all right, so let's continue. So here we have Clarence's chart. Now, he has an interesting chart. He has a Capricorn rising. People with Capricorn risings generally do not have an easy time, especially when they're young. They come into their power later in life when they finally sort of grab hold of it and understand it and are finally taken seriously. When they're kids, they're pretty serious. This makes Saturn the ruler of his chart. He has Saturn in Leo. Saturn in Leo is not somebody who is willing to question his own authority. They think they know better than everybody else does. And to make things even a little bit more intense, we have Pluto right there in a conjunction. Now, one of the things about Pluto being conjunct Saturn is that it's also square the nodes well, actually, no, Pluto is very close to exactly conjuncting the nodes. The nodes of the moon, he has the South Node in Scorpio. Remember, I said he has South Node in Scorpio. That South Node's in the 9th house. The 9th house is somebody, the South Node in the 9th house can be somebody who's very, very sure of their own point of view. And then, of course, we have Chiron sitting there as well. Chiron in Scorpio. Chiron in Scorpio can feel disempowered, and it's in the 10th house, which is authority figures. So he could have felt very disempowered through the authority figures, including his grandfather, including his people who thought he was too black, very, very black. So the paper bag test and all that stuff that happened in the black culture. The closer you were to white, the better off you were, or the better you were. And then so they were sort of taking on the white man's grading scale, I guess. And all of that must have been very, very, very traumatizing to this soul. When you have any planet square the nodes, there is it's a skip step. When we're dealing with Saturn, it's a skipped step about taking responsibility. It also can be around issues around father, Saturn. And with Pluto, it can be skip steps concerning your desire nature, Now, the resolution node for his Pluto and Saturn square the nodes is actually his north node in Taurus. And so in order for him to move into the direction of evolution for himself, he would need to move in the direction of Taurus, which is one of stability. It's also Venus ruled. And so we have somebody who would be attracted to Venus things. Now, Venus can be women. Venus can be money. He has Venus in Cancer, which is interesting because it is very close to his Mercury. So he has the Sun, Mercury, and Venus, all very, very close, kind of sitting on top of each other in those degrees of Cancer. Well, the Venus of the United States and the Jupiter of the United States sit on those planets. And so Jupiter rules the law. So he was really kind of given an opportunity to go in the direction of Taurus, stability. Self-worth, self-esteem. And I think, he's a Supreme Court justice. He has a lot of self-esteem, but I'm not sure that it's based on a true love of self. I think it's more based on trying to get back at the people who hurt him. Honestly, and I could be wrong. So just what kind of looks like what it is to me. Now, if we go over to his tree of life, we see where all these things fall in his tree of life. He has his shadow and his quiescent in Bina. Bina is the place of the divine feminine. So we know there's issues with women and with mother. The 57-3, of course, is the three of swords. It's heartbreak, it's betrayal. The 3811 is a Scorpio vibration. It could be betrayal. And Bina is the place of the dark night of the soul. So this is a soul who's in a lot of pain, and feels very restricted by his perhaps blackness, because Bina is associated with the color black. He has his expression and his path in Hokmah. So this is another side of him. The Hokmah, this is the divine masculine. This is the divine feminine. The 11, of course, is about balance. The 51-6, the King of Swords, is a Libra vibration. So all this Libra energy here, this is a Libra vibration, this is a Libra vibration, all in the place of the divine masculine. Now let's see, does he have Libra in his chart? He has Neptune in Libra. Neptune in Libra can be very idealistic, especially around relationships, but they can also be delusional. It is in the 9th house, in the house of the Supreme Court. And so I'm not so sure how clear he sees things when it comes to this. Here is his soul vibration here, the 11-2, on the path of justice, connecting Gabor, the path of, this is the Sephiroth of Mars. And also, and he has Mars in, where is his Mars? In Virgo. And his Mars in Virgo is actually sesquiquadrate his moon. So this vibration, Mars to the moon, this aspect, the sesquiquadrate, is an aspect that will create a humbling experience to happen, so that his ego can be like sort of taken down a peg. Okay, so that's the nature of this particular aspect just by itself. And then we take Mars and the moon. Mars is our action, the moon is our feelings. He does have a moon in Aquarius. The moon in Aquarius can be somebody who's very traumatized. The Aquarius moon has a frozen emotional body. It's in his first house. Moon in the first house, you're feeling it, but with the trauma there, I'm not sure. I think his grandfather was very believed in corporal punishment. So I think that he was probably physically abused as a child, as well as emotionally and mentally abused as a child. And this is, this is the guy on the Supreme Court. So we kind of have to take these things into consideration when thinking of him as a soul and having compassion for him. There's also something we should take into consideration to see if this is the type of person to be making laws without any ethical oversight. The people when Anita Hill went to speak, his people, the people who were putting him in, the Bush administration at the time, Daddy Bush, they were like, he was sure that this was the end, that this was going to take him down. And the guy said, oh, just deny it, just deny it, just deny it. And so he did. And then, they hid stuff, and Anita Hill was telling the truth. But of course, it was 1991. It was before Me Too. It was before they, started taking women's word. And so it was a different time. But these are things that we need to look at, right? That's why everybody who's going to take on power should have their chart done and be evaluated. I mean, certainly we saw it with Trump. I mean, we didn't actually have to look at his chart. We just had to look at his life. But, there's all the smoke and mirrors and all the Neptune stuff that was going on. When we finally get to the truth, which may take a long, long time for us to really see what happens, hopefully we will, if ever, we'll really see how the wool was pulled over our eyes. But of course, he wouldn't be the first, and he's not going to be the last. He'll probably be the first of his kind, and maybe hopefully the last of his kind. But there'll be other people trying to pull the wool over our eyes. That's why it's good to look into these things from a more esoteric level, I think, because you can't hide from the truth that way, or the possibilities. And then here we have a soul down here. It's a Pisces vibration, connects Nexac, which is the Venus Sephiroth, with the earth. And the moon is emotional ups and downs. There's a bipolarity to the moon. There's it can be a beautiful card, but it's also it's kind of what makes us human. So I would say that this guy is very, very, very human, as a matter of fact. All right, let's take a look at when we had the Anita Hill testimony. So this was when he was being voted on to see if he would become Supreme Court Justice. And we had, at that time, Pluto in Scorpio sitting on his Chiron, exposing his past, exposing his sexually deviant past. At the same time, we had Saturn on his moon. Saturn never feels good. It just had recently moved into his first house. So he was reinventing himself, gone through his 12th house. So he'd been through a lot of stuff. Saturn through the 12th house is not fun. Now it's in the first house and it's sitting on his moon. This can be a time when you feel very, very, very lonely. Very lonely. Let's see, what else? Was there anything else I wanted to mention here at this time? Okay, no. Now let's take a look at the ProPublica article. Now that came out on April 6, 2023, and it was talking about his friendship with Harlan Crow and all the trips he went on. Now, he's not the only one who went on trips. We know now that Alito went on a trip, but before that, who's the guy who dropped dead? Also, it's a Sicilian, I think, from New Jersey. The one who was, oh my God, I can't believe I can't think of his name. Began with an S. The one who was in tight with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. and no, it wasn't Scalise. Oh God, what's his name? Anyway, he went on many trips. In fact, I believe he died on one of those trips with his friends. Of course, I don't think they were ever told either. So it's very consistent that these judges, these conservative judges, are very close to the billionaires, right? We see it with him, we see it with Alito, we saw it with the other guy that began with an S, and I can't remember his name. So embarrassed. It might come to me. Scalia. Now, interestingly enough, the same things are getting activated in his chart, only in different ways. We have the moon being conjunct Pluto, conjuncting the moon. So Pluto, when he became the justice, Pluto was on his Chiron, exposing his past. Now Pluto is right here. Remember, Saturn was there. Now Pluto was where Saturn was. And we have Uranus opposing his Chiron and activating his nodes as well. In fact, he had just recently, a couple of months before, had a nodal return, reminding him that he needs to go in the direction of Taurus. Uranus frees us from the node. It exposes us in ways. And we can see here that this again, and only this time, instead of it being a sexual deviance, it was a greed. And actually being bought off, honestly, being bought off. So I can't imagine that he didn't know what was happening. Let's put it that way. And then of course there's Ginny, who we can't, ever like take out of the picture because anyway, let's see, what else? Was there anything else when this happened? No, I think that's it. Okay, I think that's all I have on him. Okay, great. So let me get out of this. Stop share. Okay. So this creates a pretty interesting picture. It's very possible that he will soon retire, be asked to leave. I don't know. He won't leave unless he's forced to. It could be health. While he is in the Supreme Court, I'm not sure they're going to do anything about Ginny. But there's definitely, the court is definitely up for its comeuppance. One of the things that I probably should have done before I did anything was to look at the actual chart for the Supreme Court itself. But I think I'll wait till the end of this. Now, I'm going to try to do all of the justices. If the Democrats grow a pair and they decide to increase the number of justices, I'll do something on them as well. That would be nice. I won't hold my breath. Yeah, he's under a lot of pressure, and Pluto's coming back to his moon. So over the next couple of years, we're going to have Pluto on the moon, and that's not good for your health, especially in the first house. And he's been sick. In fact, he's had a couple of things where he's had to, not necessarily accuse himself, but not be there because he's sick. Oh, suddenly he's sick. Oh, he's got pneumonia. Oh, this, oh, that. Like, yeah, right. Maybe, we don't know. So things don't look good for him. His shadow is about, betrayal around relationships. I think him and Ginny do have a very special relationship with each other. I think that she's done a lot for his career. He's done a lot for her career. And I think they have a real love for each other. But that might be his downfall. His downfall is what his wife has done, more than what he has done, which he's done plenty all by himself to get him out. But we'll have to see, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how far this is going to go, if it's going to make any difference. I like to think that things are changing a lot more quickly, and that it's not, you know, a lot of things came down and we felt a lot of pain about it because of Trump. But if we waste the opportunity and don't grow a pair, so to speak, and fix the things that need fixing, and we just wait for it to everything to settle down and go back to normal, we're nuts, because nothing's going back to normal. It's a new paradigm, and we need to be responsible, not just with what we're doing as chief justices, but when justices and politicians and the like, but as people. What are we doing to the earth? What are we doing to the country? What are we doing to each other? There's only one planet that so far we know that's habitable, and we're going to have to learn how to get along on it. Or the planet could just wipe us all out and we can start over again. It's not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. But hopefully we can do what we need to do, our due diligence, shine our light, and light up all the dark places. Unfortunately, the dark places do need to be seen before we can sweep it away and live in the light. So I guess on some level, Clarence Thomas is doing a service for all of us. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe. Thank you to my Patreon. You always get to see these things first. If you would like to become a patron, there is a link below. There is the link for the Frontline program. Definitely watch that if you're interested in this. And if you would like a reading with me, you also could have a reading like I do on Clarence Thomas. I'll be a little nicer to you than I was to him. And there's a link below for that as well. Until next time, which we'll be looking at John Roberts, the Chief Justice. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will see you soon. Take care, everyone. Namaste. Much love.